Stephen and Pip, thanks so much for your time this afternoon. I'm really excited for you to share your story with other Hope people because your story is the story of what Eugene Peterson calls a long obedience in the same direction. So, people know you're called Stephen and Pip. I will add that they might be familiar with you if they know Hope Bedford. But otherwise, over to you. Tell us a little bit about who you are, where you are, so people get a sense of who is telling the story this afternoon.
My name is Stephen, and I'm 75 years old, and I've lived in Bedford now for about over 50 years. I'm married to Pip. We've been married for over 50 years, and I used to be a head teacher of a lower school.
And we've had 4 boys, all married now, so we've got 9 grandchildren. So we're kept quite busy with them.
Brilliant. So what I've picked up, and hopefully other people have too, is that you're not professional Christians. You know, you don't lead a church. You are a head teacher and a teacher. You're family people. And where you serve in Bedford is where you've been for a long time. So start off by telling us then, how did Hope Bedford start? And actually, I think it starts before Hope Bedford started. You know, what's your sense of call? Take us back to the beginning.
Well, Hope in Bedfordshire started in 2008. But as you say, it goes much further back than that. In fact, back to 1982. And in 1982, we were both praying and we found ourselves getting angry. And we thought, why are we getting angry, Lord? Because we couldn't put any reason for it. And quite clearly, he said, you're angry because I'm angry. My people are not one. And from that moment on until now, it has been our aim, our mission to try and unite the church in Bedford and to bring it together. As John 17 says, Jesus prayed his people be one that the world might believe.
So we were delighted when in 2008, something called What We Didn't Know About, Hope Together, put out this idea that we should start doing things across the churches. And that's our vision, as Stephen mentioned. But it's just a sort of a real sense of not wanting to be people that are stuck in one church, as in we do everything because our church says so, but we do it together because we're stronger together and we all have different giftings.
And in 2008, we had what we called a family fun day. And we united several churches to come and serve in a fantastic event on the banks of the River Ouse in Bedford. We had about 1,500 people to it. It was completely free. And it was the start of God moving amongst his people.
So in 1982, there was a sense of call and vision around church unity. And as you said, Pip, being stronger together. And then in 2008, when Hope launched and it had that year of mission, it seemed like a good fit. And you launched with this family fun day and, 1,500 people. Wow, family fun day on the banks of the river. Tell us about since 2008. Okay, because that family fun day turned into Hope Bedford. What has Hope Bedford looked like over the years? Just give us some kind of headlines.
Well, we certainly had another family fun day 2 years later. We ran a program for training for Sunday school teachers and youth workers in church. We've done various things like Pentecost in the Park, which was a big service in a park in Bedford. We host the Good Friday service in the middle of Bedford, which attracts about 1,000 people to it, right in the middle of Bedford. And we've had celebrations where we've had some fairly well-known speakers. So that is what we've been doing. And then just before COVID, my wife had another brilliant idea.
Well, it was just that it was suggested that about having Hope spaces, a place where we could just invite people in and talk to them about Jesus or pray for them, whatever the need was. And so I went about trying to find a shop, an empty shop, because there were rather a lot of them at the time. And about 3 or 4 days before COVID, of course, lockdown, we got a property and we thought, wrong timing just wasn't right, Lord, you know, but he has a better idea. So we spent a lot of time just worshipping and praising God in the building. And when finally we could invite people in, we really did.
We used the time to get some people in the church who were very gifted artistically, and they made great big posters with scriptures on them, like "I am the way, the truth, and the life," and "God so loved the world," etc. And we stuck these up in the window so that while people were queuing for Santander Bank just around the corner, they had to walk past this Hope Space shop. It had a lovely big frontage, and we had all these posters in it, and all they could do was stand and read these scriptures.
So what I love is that Hope Bedford has evolved. You have kind of flexed according to what you've sensed God's been doing at the time. That in essence, it's doing things with other Christians to be a Christian presence in Bedford. And you've done lots of things that are kind of gathering Christians and an opportunity for people to get an insight into our Christian faith at kind of festival times of the year, the kind of calendar events. You talked about Christmas and Good Friday and Pentecost, but you've also created a space on the high street. And if anyone's watching this and thinks, Hope Spaces, I've heard of that before. Yes, actually, Stephen and Pip gave us the idea because we thought it's such a good idea to create a space where we can get to know people, have an opportunity to talk and engage in conversations, you know, that we kind of took it national. And you don't have the shop anymore, but you have another Hope Space now, don't you? So in Bedford, there is a town of markets. I've seen the signs. Okay, you have a gazebo. Tell us about your gazebo.
Well, when the shop closed, we planned for 2 weeks, and God gave it to us for over 2 years. But we then had to give the shop back because it was only on a peppercorn rent. But I felt that we still needed to have a presence of God in the town centre. And so we have a gazebo that we stick up in the Bedford Market every third Saturday in the month. And we just use it as a place where people can talk. We give out lots of Hope magazines and newspapers. We pray for people. We're there to answer any questions. And we've seen people born again. We've seen people healed. And we're just there to serve the community.
Yeah, we just feel that, you know, we're not great evangelists ourselves. We just want to be people who can invite other people who have that heart for evangelism. And so we tend to stand around the tent more, or the gazebo, and other people from other churches. Some people may be walking past to a Christian, said, "Oh, can I do that?" And or having chatted to them, said, "Yeah, let's sort of find out their heart first, that they're not there to do something strange." But yes, so they join us, and so we've got about 5 or 6 different churches represented from those that help. That doesn't mean that they're all, you know, fully behind what we're doing, or the churches themselves, but they are represented.
And yeah, we play Christian music at the time, and we then do a bit of preaching through a microphone and just tell people that God loves them. But what I should say is also another event that we have every week, and that is something called Prayer on the Mound. And we recognise that prayer is absolutely vital, and nothing happens without prayer. And so for quite a long time, before we had the gazebo, a group of us meet on an old castle site in Bedford, and we just pray for a move of God in this town of Bedford. And it's amazing how we're seeing Christians come together. We have anything up to 16 Christians from 5 or 6 different churches wanting to pray for the town of Bedford.
So what I love, okay, is this: it's not just you. You've got 5 or 6 other churches. That what you do is actually birthed in prayer, that you're meeting with other Christians to pray about what you do. And then what I find really inspiring, and I hope people will find encouraging, is that you don't think of yourselves as evangelists, but for the last kind of 40 years, you've been facilitating mission and evangelism. Even if it's not you that have all the conversations or do the preaching, You're there kind of providing the impetus and the encouragement and facilitating the team. And I think that will encourage a lot of other people, because there'll be a lot of people that are scared of taking the microphone, but want to be involved in some way because they see how important it is and they're passionate about it. So where are you now? You had that vision in 1982 that then kind of morphed in 2008. What about now? What's the vision that God's giving you now? Because I don't think it's changed. I think it's just been kind of clarified and morphed again. Tell us a bit about the now and where you see yourselves going forwards.
Well, as I say, when we started the journey, we hadn't a clue where it was going to go to. But now we believe, and we've had prophetic words, and it's backed up in scriptural verses, that we're going to see a move of God in the town centre in front of that gazebo. And one of the things that God has said is that people are going to come past that gazebo and be hit by the presence of God in such a way that they're going to fall on their faces on the pavement. And I see this as an exciting and amazing thing. And it links up a bit with Gideon. And we've always seen ourselves a bit like Gideon leading a small army in this town, because there are thousands of Christians in Bedford and we only have a very small army. But I think this is God's strategy to bring the people together, because when people start falling on their faces before God, it will be too much for us to handle ourselves. And we're going to have to call out for reinforcements, which is what Gideon did after he'd won this great big victory over the Midianites. He had to call for reinforcements. And I think this is God's strategy and plan to bring the churches together in Bedford. We are in contact with lots of pastors in the town. We know lots of Christians in all sorts of churches. And God is gradually working and bringing them all together. And we think that that's our vision, and we believe God's going to do it.
And what I love is, in a sense, that's the kind of next level of detail on the vision that you had in 1982. The vision in 1982 was unity, because God was cross and upset that the church weren't unified. And now you're seeing that that market stall could be a place of encounter that could lead to further unity. Now, I visited your market stall, and I want people to know that it's actually on a street called All Hallows. You know, that market stall is on holy ground. And just like in Exodus, when Moses is told to take off his shoes, he's on holy ground. You know, you have that sense that people will have an encounter on that holy ground, and we'll feel compelled, if you like. It'll be an automatic reaction to fall on their knees, and then you won't be able to cope with that. So more of the church will get involved and there'll be greater unity. I think that's beautiful. And I think it's just such a beautiful story of that long obedience in the same direction. I know that you don't see it like that. You see it as just your everyday, and just putting one step in front of another and doing what God's asked you to do. But I love how there's that golden thread running through it right from 1982. And I hope people are inspired to just get up and put one foot in front of the other each day and keep on being obedient to what God's saying and what God's doing. Is there anything you want to add before we finish?
Well, the only thing I would say is that from 1982 to 2008 seems a long time and many years, and it hasn't always been easy. We've been lots of times of frustration, disappointment. Lots of people haven't got what we've been trying to say. We've had ups and downs in terms of, Lord, what's going on? What are we doing? But we've just had to put our trust in God, and He's gradually and gently led us forward, and we're where we are now. And we put it all down to God.
Yeah.
I love the way you said, yeah, Pip. Okay, so it's your long obedience in the same direction, but God's faithfulness over the long term as well.
Absolutely. Yes. There's nothing special about us. It's just God.
Yeah.
I would disagree. I don't think there's many people that could put one step in front of the other and be obedient even to God's faithfulness for over 40 years. I think you're pretty special, but I hope that you're really inspirational, that you've inspired other people just in their day-to-day to put one foot in front of the other and be obedient to where God is directing them, and to be involved in mission, even if you're not the one holding the microphone, but that we can create these spaces in our communities, towns and villages that bring hope and point people to Jesus. Thank you so much, Stephen and Pip. I hope in a few years' time we'll be talking about the next thing.
Absolutely.